to us for a few minutes. So thank you for being here, and over to you, Abbas Saab.
Thank you very much, Amina. Could I ask Amin Saab to make those remarks first? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, some changes in the program, some very pleasant, some sadly dictated by circumstances. The time we have is short. Dr. Karen Armstrong has to be elsewhere at 4. This session is a bit squeezed. We understand, we apologize, there's nothing to be done about it. So in order to accommodate the best possible things, what we've done is, instead of a straight talk or a lecture, we've decided to turn this into a question and answer a cycle, what has happened is, over the last 2 days, we've been discussing that this would be a different pattern from the pattern of a talk followed by questions. So without further ado, let me throw the very first question. Karen, the first question, and once again, these are at my behest and at the behest of the people present here, that I have been making this request of what is it that you would like me to ask Dr. Armstrong. And here is one given to me from a very good friend. The prescription for compassion is being given as a symptom to a disease. What, in your opinion, is the cause of this disease?
I don't quite understand.
Okay, I'll say that question again. The prescription of compassion treats the symptoms of disease. What, in your opinion, is the cause of this problem? The root cause.
The root cause of the disease.
Right.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I think the root cause of all our troubles is ego.
Okay.
Now, that's not to say that we shouldn't have a strong sense of self. We should. But we're talking about the greediness of ego that can't see outside its own perspectives, that shrinks us into a small, privatized world where everything is me first. And we're programmed for that because otherwise we'd never have survived as a species. But nevertheless, it is also the cause of many of our problems. That ego can be a national ego, a religious ego, as well as a personal one, where we think we are the one and only, we are in a special category, and we are not willing to step outside that box. And when we want things for ourselves, we're greedy, we push people aside. As soon as we meet somebody new, or we hear a piece of news, we immediately think, how's that going to affect me? And we think, is this person attractive to me? Is she going to be a threat to me? How can I use this person? We think in this calculating way all the time. And that means that we often sort of we often feel slighted if other people are doing better than we do. And so we want to pull them down and push them down to size. So this is the cause of many of our problems. And compassion makes you, as the Charter says, dethrone yourself from the center of your world and putting another there. Because the great sages of the religious life all say that it's ego that keeps us from enlightenment, from the divine, from God. We prefer ourselves to God. Or we make God into a larger version of ourselves and create an idol in our own image and likeness. All these are problems of ego.
That's a marvelous echo of the Quranic verse which says, have you not seen the one who set up his own caprice as God, small g God? Excellent. I think that flows in extremely well with in the 12 steps to compassion, your insistence on dialogue. Dialogue being a readiness to see the other and to see the divine.
Well, ego again, because we all tend to identify very closely with our own opinions and our own beliefs. We tend to see them as part of ourselves. So when these opinions are attacked in any way, we feel personally threatened. This the great masters of the spiritual life long ago saw. And the problem, what it is we want other people to accept what we think. We're not so interested in listening to what the other person is saying, and listening with full ears, not just listening to the actual words, but watching the body language, feeling the kind of imagery that is being used. All this is giving you the full picture, sometimes the underlying message of what is coming up. You can often tell when people are afraid by their tone of voice. Too often we want to go into dialogue to win it, rather than really to have a free exchange of views. There's really, from the time of Socrates on, dialogue is meant to change you. And enrich you. It's not to say you just soak up other people's opinions, but you allow people to unsettle some of your opinions, and then you start looking and seeing things in a new way. So I think dialogue between peoples, between nations, has to begin with absolute respect on both sides. Not seeing the other person as someone simply to be converted to one's own view.
Would you then say that what to me are passionate beliefs that I am extremely passionate about, are prejudices to the other, and what are passionate beliefs of the other are prejudices to me, called so, and in this lack of respect, dialogue is not possible.
Dialogue is not possible if you don't open your mind. Mm-hmm. And realize, as I said, how little we know. We know so little about one another. As I said in my talk yesterday, I mean, people in the West have a very limited and biased view of Islam, for example. And perhaps you have some limited views about the West. And you're fed these lines in newspapers, but we're all more complex than a newspaper article. All these religious traditions, national histories, religious histories are extremely complex, consisting of many, many different strands. And we have to take that complexity into account. Look at all the people in this room now. And if all these, each one of you is a world unto yourself, and then how could I look around at this and say, right, now I can sum up Pakistan in one sentence? You can't.
No.
And so I think just to open your eyes to the diversity of people and to the diversity within yourself, because and beliefs change over the years.
Exactly.
As you grow up, as you get older, you see things differently. I certainly see things differently now than I did from when I was younger. And that's as it should be. One goes through stages of life, and different beliefs are more appropriate for certain stages of life. The late Joseph Campbell, a scholar of mythology, was approached by one of his students who said, look, I don't just get this Hindu thing about the evanescence of everything and nothing lasts and everything is shifting and everything comes to an end. And he said, oh, darling, that's not for you now. That's for later on.
That's for later on.
We grow into, as we grow up and mature, we should be open to change and start seeing things in a different light. If you let some of these beliefs go, you find yourself relaxing a bit. Don't sort of identify yourself so closely with your beliefs. The Taoists used to say, we're talking about the illimitable, the unnameable, the unspeakable. That's the Tao in their view. How can anybody be right or wrong? How can you say this cannot mean that?
Excellent. To my mind, this reads as, your entire book, of course, 12 Steps to Compassion and Letter to Pakistan, both published by OUP and available, they speak of a particular kind of remedy. And I think I want to take this and would like your view on this. Modernity as a phenomenon relies on speed, relies on the fastness. There is a frenzy of activity and motion. How fast is your broadband and your downloading speed, and how quickly do you, etc. Yet compassion demands a slowness, a demand on time that cannot just happen in a soundbite or in an image. It takes time to build trust. It takes time to have dialogue. Would you then say that compassion as a remedy is also one of the ways of re-looking at the demands of modernity in its emphasis on speed?
Certainly the emphasis on speed is one thing. Another is the emphasis on targets. We've all got to hit this target and achieve this and achieve that, and we're rushed and pushed. I think that compassion is one of the things that teaches us depth. You can't be racing along on the top of the rushing and rushing and rushing and be deep at the same time. Religion requires depth. Art, literature requires depth and time. A poem can take you an entire lifetime to understand. It grows, you read a poem first, and gradually you see more and more, and gradually things that foxed you in the beginning, that you couldn't understand, suddenly become very clear. It lives with you, and you live with it, and you go deep. The speed helps us to, keeps us on the surface, as though you're running across the water and afraid to sink. But if what compassion should do, like art, and which makes us look at things, slows us down, we should attend to people. Instead of just rushing past them or grabbing an impression there or using them there, we should attend to people seriously and make a space for them in our minds. We can wear a compassionate groove in our mind by thinking about a person just while you're going about your daily routine, by calling up a person whom you've seen who's in pain and keeping that person in your mind. It slows you down and it helps you to breathe and go a little deep. Religion, wisdom, the arts, and compassion all require time, and people seem to think that they can zip through these 12 steps that I've mentioned with no time at all. I don't know if I said this yesterday, but when I was in Seattle, which is doing wonderful work for the Charter on the west coast of the United States, I told them I was writing this book, and they said, great, they said, we can then have graduation ceremonies for people who've been through the 12 steps every 6 months. And I said, wait a minute, this is a lifetime. Don't expect that to become a fully compassionate person in a week. It takes a lifetime to overcome, but just be gentle with yourself too. Don't make yourself meet too much a target. When you fail, just say, oh ho, there I go again. Pick yourself up and start afresh.
You've hit upon one of the notes, which is why in Pakistan we are launching the Charter of Compassion, and therefore all this buzz of activity. one of our vectors is education, one of our vectors is opening up courses, curricula, materials for children, for college, university students, etc. If we could benefit from your insight into, since compassion is something that we need to educate people in, and since it is something that doesn't come, as it were, by default, what would be some of the key steps by which an education process can be launched on
Well,
compassion?
I'm not an educationalist, and I think here we do need experts who know the best way of implanting knowledge in people's minds.
Okay.
But I think it's essential for a start that the young people are given accurate information, accurate, unbiased, respectful information, as the Charter says, about other peoples, other nations, other faith traditions. I think there are all kinds of ways in which we can increase a sense